Peace, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at the heritage of the so-called Negro in America. I will be showing images representing the so-called Negro as an American Indian. I will show you instances where they're hiding that fact. Just know I got a few things to show y'all. So if y'all do support the content, just leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, we already looked at this in the last video, but I want to look at it again because this is going to corroborate with something that I will be showing you shortly. We're down where it says free African Americans in 1790 through 1840 censuses. We're going to skip forward a little bit. It says censuses for 1790 and 1810 list free non-whites in a category titled All Other Free Persons. There is no distinction made between free blacks and Native Americans not on reservations. Not on reservations. Emphasis on not on reservations. Who do you see not on reservations today? Who do you see trying to claim their identity again? Now, with that being said, I challenge a so-called Native American to show me one of their ancestors at a colored-only bench, colored-only fountain, colored-only restaurant, colored-only, etc. Now, while I'm showing you this, I want you to remember that in the first couple of censuses from 1790 through 1810, there were no differences made between blacks and Native Americans not on reservations, and they were all defined as colored. Please remember that. Colored person and Indians defined. Every person in whom there is ascertainable any Negro blood shall be deemed and taken to be a colored person, and every person not a colored person having 1/4 or more of American Indian blood shall be deemed an American Indian. 1/4 blood is how you get quadroons, octoroons, mulattoes, and all that BS. And I'm only calling it BS because this is what they use to erase our identity, as you will be seeing shortly. So to recap what I read before I started yapping, every person with 1/4 of Negro blood shall be deemed a Negro, and every person with 1/4 of American Indian blood shall be deemed an American Indian. Except that members of Indian tribes living on reservations allotted them by the Commonwealth of Virginia having 1/4 or more of Indian blood and less than 1/16 of Negro blood shall be deemed tribal Indians so long as they are domiciled on these reservations. Meaning, the ones that's on reservations will remain so-called American Indians as long as they remain on the reservations. This is why us that's not on the reservation are called colored, Negro, African American, all these misnomers. They just showed you or told you how the reservations were provided to the Indians by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, y'all know good and well the government would not be doing anything for our people, so they had to be for another people, right? And you might have been questioning, how are they determining who has Negro blood and who has American Indian blood? And I'm about to show it to you how they're doing that. To answer this question, we're going to have to refer to the Negro Law of South Carolina. Section 1, the Act of 1740, Section 1 declares all Negroes and Indians, free Indians in amity with this government, Negroes, mulattoes, and mestizos who now are free, accepted to be slaves, the offspring to follow the condition of the mother. The free Indians in amity with the government are the ones who the Commonwealth of Virginia gave reservations to. You still may be asking, how did they deem who was American Indian and who was Negro? Relax, I'm finna show you. Section 2. Under this provision, it has been uniformly held that color is prima facie evidence that the party bearing the color of a Negro, mulatto, or mestizo is a slave, but the same prima facie result does not follow from the Indian color. Prima facie is a Latin term that translates to at first sight or based on first impressions, meaning if you appeared to be the color of a Negro, you were a Negro. But it goes on to say that the same does not follow for the Indian color. Why do you think that is? This is because they gave themselves our identity. Now you're about to see what I mean by this in the next section. Indians and descendants of Indians are regarded as free Indians in enmity with this government. Enmity means friendly relations, until the contrary be shown. In the second proviso of Section 1 of Act of 1740, it is declared that every Negro, Indian, mulatto, and mestizo is a slave unless the contrary can be made to appear. Yet, in the same, it is immediately thereafter provided the Indians in enmity with this government accepted, in which case the burden of proof shall lie on the defendant, that is, on the person claiming the Indian plaintiff to be a slave. The latter clause of the proviso is now regarded as furnishing the rule. The race of slave Indians, or of Indians not in enmity to this government / the state, is extinct, and hence the previous part of the proviso has no application. So what does that mean? They telling your ass there's no such thing as an Indian who's not in friendly relations with this government, meaning that if you don't stay on the reservation, you're not an Indian. This is why on the first couple of censuses, there was no distinction made between so-called blacks and Native Americans who weren't on reservations, because they were the same people. In my last video, I went over this, but I'm going over it again because this is very important. This shows how they are erasing our identity. Smithsonian Institution scientists have discovered that 4 skeletons dug up decades ago at colonial Jamestown are among the oldest known remains of so-called African Americans. The bones, thought to date between 1650 and 1700, were originally classified as American Indian. One of the oldest skeletons in America, known as Lucia, was also deemed Negroid. I question if modern scientists will also call her an African American, just as they did these bones. Here we have rare 19th century American tobacconist advertising figure of large proportions. Now from the title or description and just looking at the figure's attire, we can definitely make an inference that this is an American Indian, correct? You get a little closer, you look at his features, start to look a little Negroid, although the attire doesn't change, still dressed like an American Indian, right? Now let's read the about. A rare 19th century American tobacconist advertising figure of large proportions, well carved and polychrome decorated, modeled as an African American, the head dressed with a gilt band and tobacco leaves, wearing a large gilt beaded necklace and pendant, holding a roll of tobacco under his right arm. Now let's ask the question, what about this figure is African American? The color? The features? We all know good and well cigar store Indians are supposed to represent Indians. Why would they depict an African American to represent Indians? Unless the African American is an Indian.
In Alaska, an ice corridor opened up. Animals took advantage and crossed through. Chasing them were Mongoloid hunters. It's well known that around 12,000 years ago, the ancestors of today's American Indians entered the New World. The Mongoloids moved swiftly, colonizing North and South America in just a few thousand years. That's precisely the time frame when scientists believe the American Aborigines begin to disappear. Could the Mongoloids have replaced the Aborigines?